I had my hand, had this, I don't know what you call it, something underneath the skin.
Yeah.
Like that Dr. Pimple Popper gets out or something, you know?
Yeah.
Anyway, they put me out because it was near some tendons and stuff like that. Something. You know, I thought they'd just give me a local, but they didn't want me moving around.
Yeah.
So they put me out, and at the end of it, the first memory of consciousness I have is this lady, like right here in my face, saying, "Do you know who I am?" It was Tracy Traylor. I said, "You're Tracy from church." And then she runs out. And out in the hallway, you know, they got those big monitors.
Yeah.
And whoever's up and down the halls, they got their name up there. Steve Harless. I don't know if it says what you're getting, but Steve Harless room, whatever.
It does.
Yeah.
It does? So when I went in for my version of what you did, I asked the lady who come in there, I said, "Do you know Tracy Traylor?" I think she said yes. May have been a different place. And I said, "Is she working today?" Anyway, I made sure that she wasn't, because I didn't want Tracy coming in there like, you know, taking a selfie, you know,
Burning your butt.
with me in who knows what kind of a situation there, you know. That would be horrible, you know. And then it'd be around here. Hey man, check out Bramlett, you know. That's the last thing I needed.
I got to add to my story just a little bit. So, of course, they run people through there like cattle.
Yes.
Okay. And the nurse told me to put on my gown and leave it open in the back. I said, okay. I followed directions.
That makes sense.
I walk out there, I mean, wide open.
You're just-
and I'm the
you're
only
just-
guy
you're
with my
flapping.
gown open.
Sweet.
Everybody else tied theirs, and I bet there's 50 people running around in there, and I'm just walking bare-cheeked across the floor. And I thought, man.
I want to say I had the same procedure. They told me the same thing. I
Yeah.
tied mine too.
I should have tied mine. I was an exhibition.
I'm debating whether or not to tell a story about my dad, but
No, not right now.
no, we're all. What makes it what would now that I've been shut down, what would have made it okay is that we're all of the age. Matt, you're getting close, where you know
Things
been there, done that,
Right.
and so it's like you know the one I'm talking about.
Yes, I know.
You may have to you'll tell me later.
Apparently, somebody really doesn't want to tell you that story, so I think you should.
Okay.
Oh,
So no, it's okay. It's okay. It's okay. You is very very free. Robin, you're just in time.
Speaking over the age.
Yeah,
Steve, it is recorded.
yeah. You know you're right.
Oh, it's going out over the internet.
Oh man.
No.
There you go. Well, okay. Joey, what's on this? Who's on the sick list? We need to call Anthony in here and like put it on pause.
I need to bring a sock in every now and
We have
then.
Eric Womack, Sherry wants us to send cards of encouragement to him. He was recently restored. And then Ken Taylor will be having knee surgery on Wednesday. He's a former member here. And Sheila Landman is having sinus surgery on the 18th. She's a former member here. And that's my list.
Good deal. Any reports from Honduras? Matt, you heard anything from Honduras?
Everything's good.
Going. No news is good news.
Yeah, right.
Gotcha.
They posted a lot of pictures.
Posting a lot of pictures.
Yes, Sam's been posting a lot.
Seesaw, I noticed you had what looked like to be a gummy frog or something in front of you there.
Yeah,
Did you
that's
pick that
my
up on the way in?
grandson.
That's
I
right.
found it in there. They won't keep stuff like that. For some odd reason, I don't know.
I didn't know if you had some candy there or not. So.
No.
Save that for fishing later on.
Say what?
Save that, we'll go fishing later
You know,
on.
you could, couldn't you?
Yeah.
Yeah. Gee, I hate it that we can't continue our discussion.
It's nuts, Steve.
What are you talking about?
Yes, exactly. Stop.
We were talking about some medical procedures, and
Steve, listen, we got off that.
gotcha, and the funny items that go along with that, and we're getting ready to share a notch higher story,
I can't stop over.
but we can't. Well, no, we can't because someone pointed out, hey, you know, we're being recorded, right? And going out over the internet.
So
So
gotta be nice.
Yes.
yes, apparently.
Well, he's the only one that's recorded. It doesn't get us over around the side.
You can't hear our voice, can you?
So you can walk over here.
So I can walk over there and tell you the story then.
Yeah, you can walk over here and tell them.
Nah, I'm getting waved off over here.
Keep
So
on the doorway.
it was good though, and especially
Oh, now you're just.
funny, especially given my dad. My dad's a very low key
Okay.
person.
So what did he have done?
Just stop. Stop. You make this first.
This is a teaser,
Stop.
a colonoscopy, which is what Steve just had done, which prompted us to talk about that. All right, Joy. Anybody else on the sick list? That's
And
it.
thank you for announcing
Thank
that.
you, everyone. Everyone now is like, "Hey, go ahead and tell us." You know, if they're dialed in.
I'll be getting cards.
I'll be getting cards.
We got some good cards for Steve coming up. Hey,
Oh
Steve,
no, man. We almost did a card. We were doing announcements one day. I was doing announcements, and people come up when you're getting ready to walk down, don't they, Steve?
Yeah.
With
Last second.
they'll come up with this 3-page announcement as you're getting ready to walk down. Hey man, could you announce this? I'm like, where you been? Where have you been? So Steve says, hey man, I got an announcement somebody handed me. I didn't want to miss you. I'll put it up on the podium for you. I'm like, okay, cool, thank you. So I go up there. I turn around, I flip the note over, and Steve has written, I'd like to confess to everyone that I'm a homosexual. And he wrote it on the note. He wanted me to read it. So I almost said, hey, Steve Harless wants everyone to know.
You should have announced it just to get back.
And so I look out at him, and of course he's trying to maintain a straight face.
I was doing an announcement one time, and they had misspelled his name or something and put hairless.
Hairless, that's right. That's how he became Steve
He
Hairless.
said, I wish I was up there doing that.
That's right, Steve Hairless. Well, all right, I guess it's time to begin. Anybody got any announcements, any prayer requests, anything you want to add? Sir.
My brother in Montgomery, he's been going through, he's been bleeding where Steve got injured at.
Gotcha.
And he's had 6 pints of blood this week.
Oh my goodness, man, that sounds
So
bad.
they're trying to find out where he's bleeding from. It's all internal, but we don't know what's going to happen. So,
Is your brother?
my brother Bobby.
Your brother Bobby?
You wanna put praying for you on here and so I remember?
No, it's just us in here.
Alright, fine.
Okay.
I understand.
All right, well, let's have prayer, and we'll begin our. We have chewed up 9 minutes talking about stuff. We'll have prayer, and then we'll begin our class. Father, thank you for taking good care of us. We ask that you bless us, that you bless this class, that you bless our families, that you bless the people that go to this church. We ask that you bless Robin's brother Bobby, and that gets straightened out as soon as possible, and that it come out good. Father, we ask you forgive us and bless us as we go through this class. In Christ's name, amen. So, put this on silent. So, we've been in Galatians. Quick review. We went in Galatians. Galatians is different from a lot of other books, really from every other book. Paul is very serious in Galatians. In today's word, I wonder if we would have asked Paul back then, hey Paul, are you trying to stop the first denomination? You know, I wonder what Paul would have said to that. What are you talking about? Denomination, what's that? You know, I'm just trying to preach the truth. Maybe I wonder if that's what Paul would have said. But to us, looking back, he was, in our vocabulary, he's trying to stop the first denomination. Someone messing around with the gospel, but still calling it Christianity, and adding something either reasonable or not reasonable to it. And so and he's serious about it, man. He's as serious as he's ever been in any of his other letters. We joke around because of verses. You know, Paul wasn't writing in verses, but he doesn't make it to verse 6, and he pulls his apostolic pen and starts, getting on them pretty good about what they've have been doing, and he's setting up the idea of you can't do this. Then he sets up in chapter 2 the idea that, hey man, I'm an apostle, I was taught this by the Holy Spirit, I spent time, and then he is now coming back to see those who are pillars, or I don't want to say what Paul didn't say, but I'll say what he seems to be saying. He talked to somebody who was supposed to be of great reputation. And man, just a couple of verses away from who he names some of the apostles. And you would think that they're the one and the same. They may not be. I'm not trying to teach error, but that's certain how I read it. And we'll go through those. Matter of fact, we'll just hit them right quick. Chapter 2, verse 6. But from those who were of high reputation, what they were makes no difference to me. God shows no partiality. Well, those who were of reputation contributed nothing to me. I went and saw somebody who was thought a lot of, and I didn't get nothing from them. Whoever it was he saw, and whatever it was they said, Paul didn't leave better than he came. Then if you look, get my notes for today out. If you look over to what am I looking for? Oh, verse 9. And recognizing the grace that had been given to me, James and Cephas and John, who were reputed to be pillars. Maybe that's just the use of the same terms, but man, just a couple of verses away, he's using the term reputed, and you know what I mean? It's it certainly looks like that's who he's talking about. And then now, we're getting ready to get into what some of these people were saying. Well, we know James, and from other books, James, who hung out in Jerusalem, he drug a foot in the law. He tried to maintain the law for a while, and we know Peter did too. We're getting ready to read, or Cephas, we're getting ready to read about that. The central theme, if you will, is, and we're going to get to this verse in 3. I forgot what verse it is. 4 or 5 or 6, something like that. Paul asks them, and he says, did you receive the Holy Spirit? And I try to put it in kind of our terms and our vocabulary today. Were you saved by the law, or were you saved through faith? That's really what Paul's asking them. Did you receive the Holy Spirit because you mastered the law? Because you're trying to go back to the law. Remember, what are they trying to add to the gospel? Circumcision. And that's natural to them. Man, they grew up that way. Their grandpa was that way. This is just as natural to us as taking the Lord's Supper. What do you mean you don't take the Lord's Supper? Hey, you're not worshiping. What do you mean you're not circumcised? You're not chosen of God. You know what I mean? That was just so natural. It's not like that you would raise a It's not like you would raise a red flag over something like that. So it's not like these people went in with some crazy new doctrine. You know what I mean? It would have been easy to slide in there. Yeah, you're probably right. Probably ought to get circumcised. You know, probably the right thing. Were you saved through the law, or were you saved through faith, or did you receive the Holy Spirit? Was the real words. And then you can change that to today. Are we saved by the law? We don't really talk like that nowadays, do we? Are we saved because it's not really valid any longer? Are we saved by something that's not part of the gospel? Are we saved by something other than the gospel? Or are we saved through Jesus and the gospel? That's us. So this sentence that Paul asked them, were you saved by law, or were you saved through the gospel? We could ask ourselves to say, are you saved by XYZ, something that's not part of the gospel, or were you saved by the gospel? And that's kind of the central theme that we could study and talk about today. Maybe it's a good thing that we didn't talk about the stuff. People would be walking up and down the hallway and walk up at just the precise moment when we're talking about something and think, man, what in the world are they talking about in that classroom? Not to go back into that, though. I just got the look. I just got a bad look right over here from the corner, like, move on. So, moving on. Had she not been here, though, Robin, you would have heard the story. We would have went and got Anthony and cut the machine off.
We can talk later.
We can talk later at the back of the auditorium. It is good for us to apply this principle today because we are always faced with new things. How many have you heard about people with other churches? You know, they didn't have to have Church of Christ on the sign, but you hear about them incorporating some new thing into their, or getting rid of something. Hey, well, we do that. Hey, we have 2 worship services. You ever heard of that? What does that typically mean? We have 2 worship services.
Large number of members.
Yes, that's right. If they're still doing the right thing, still teaching the gospel, it means they split up. They do the same in each, and everything's good. What also could it mean?
They have the conventional and the progressive.
A progressive, a contemporary, a attractive sounding name. Hey, this is for the old, stuck in a rut people, and this is for the new, modern. We got coffee and donuts in the back of the room. Sir.
Well, a lot of people or a lot of churches are going to contemporary because they're losing membership doing the same thing over and over. They want to get something to the new thinking, so they add something.
Yeah. Yeah.
And that's where
you get into like what's attracting. You're trying to attract the people. You try to attract.
Trying to build up membership.
One time I was talking with Emmett. I was talking with Emmett, and I asked him. I forgot what it was that brought it up, and he says, look, we've talked a lot about that, about what new things can we do that are still within truth. To attract people or whatever. But then he said every time we start talking about that, we talk ourselves into a circle because, or he said, or someone will come to us with some new thing and say, hey, let's do the whatever it is. This particular thing, I know what brought it up. Someone came up with the idea of praise teams. Y'all ever heard of that? Mm-hmm. Someone came up with that idea. Oh man, it got shot. It got shot in the head. Didn't matter. I don't think it made it past first contact. And Emmett was telling me about this. And Emmett said, we always talk ourselves into a circle and come back around to the idea of he said, and I know this sounds bad, he said, we don't want to attract people that have something new. And that's,
There's nothing new to add.
no, that's right. That can be harsh, but it's not really harsh. He's trying to say, Lonnie one time said that he was told by this old preacher, if you think you've got something new to preach, you probably shouldn't preach it. And that's pretty good. Because there is, what he was trying to say is it's the truth. Don't mess around with the truth. And I don't think Emmett or whoever else would have said that in an open auditorium, because some people might not take that very well. But the idea is you gotta be careful. When you add something, what you're doing is you're saying, when you add something, when leadership changes something, or when something's put forth to you, it makes you think either something was wrong with what you had.
We had a fellow that used to visit quite often, and it's been several years ago when we had a class in fellowship hall, and he kept trying to add, he was in Tim's class, and he kept trying to add things, go Tim into adding things. That's many years ago. Of course, he hadn't been around a good while.
Well,
You've got to entertain people. You're doing it for the wrong reason anyway.
that's right.
And that's what a lot of people want. They want to be entertained.
They want to be, yes. And there's nothing lacking about the gospel. And when you add something, and then when you James Watkins would use the term when you bind it on someone, which means you teach it to them under the auspices or under the principle that you must do this in order to be saved. That's binding it on someone. And that's what these guys were trying to do. It's very tender. Just think about that, man. For huge amounts of time, it's been a certain way, and you've got
You can't blame them
No,
because they've done
no.
it all their life. Their dad did it all their life, the grandparents,
Exactly.
great-grandparents. It's hard to change.
It makes sense. It makes, if you didn't know no better, you'd be like, yeah, okay. Especially maybe you had a division in the church. Well, I'm just going to leave unless y'all do this. Well, okay, don't leave, don't go nowhere. So yes, it absolutely makes sense. And here Paul is trying to untangle this extension cord that's pretty tangled up. Somebody pulled on pretty tight to do. Let's just start at 8. For he who effectually worked for Peter in his apostleship to the circumcised effectually worked to me also to the Gentiles, James and Cephas and John, who were reputed to be pillars, gave to me Barnabas the right hand of fellowship, so that we might go to the Gentiles, and they, that is James and Cephas and John, might go to the circumcised, or back to the Jews who had converted over to Christianity. So they weren't going back to Mosaic following Jews, they were going back to the circumcised, meaning those Christians who had been an active part of the Mosaic law. Paul spent a lot of chapter 2 setting himself up as a valid, trained by the Holy Spirit apostle. And now we're about to find out why. So he's meeting with these guys. And it says in verse 11, but when Cephas came to Antioch, what does it say he did? Opposed him to his face. What had Peter done? Now remember Peter. I love Peter. I don't mind Peter. People talk about Peter like, man, he had a lot of firsts. Figured the stuff out a lot first. Wasn't afraid of stuff. Ran in, and while others were standing there looking in the temple, what Peter do? Man, busted right in. Wasn't worried about that. First to walk on water. First to say, you are the Christ. The first. He's good to go.
You can call him the Rock.
Yes. I would rather have someone working for me that I got to jerk back on the reins, who's tugging, wanting to move out, than someone who I've got to kick in the side to get him to move. I don't want someone I got to kick. I want someone that I can aim in the right direction, train him, get on it, and move out, man, go. And Peter's that guy. You got to put up with fender benders when you do that. You got about it, but that's okay. That's okay. That's how you take ground, is having a bunch of Peters, not everyone wanting to sit back and not do nothing. And so Paul says that to Peter, hey man, when there wasn't nobody around, you would eat with the Gentiles. Now what does that mean? He would eat with the Gentiles.
He's on both sides of the fence.
Associated with him.
Yeah, he ate like the Gentiles. If the Gentiles drug out some pig knuckles or whatever it is they were eating, some ribs, you know what I mean, for food forbidden by the law. I'm sure Peter was, just chowing down. But what happened when James showed up? James, from the central office church up in Jerusalem, when he made the scene, what did Peter do? Backed away. Said, we can't have lunch today, guys. No, negative. Paul saw this and said, that's hypocrisy. You act one way when you think you can get away with it, and then when somebody comes around, you act another. Now, one of two things is going on. Either you're more worried about what they think than the truth, and you know what the truth is, and they don't like that, so they must not know what the truth is, or you think you're doing something wrong to begin with.
Kind of like some politicians, they pander to a group, and then they'll go to another group and do something.
Yes. Or
something different.
Or it's like me, who would have told the story if the recorder was off. But since it's on, I chose not to.
That story's
I don't know who said, hey, you remember being recorded. Who said that in here, by the way? Somebody said that. That was a good call. Ultimately, that was a good call.
Yeah.
It was a good call.
I wish they'd have said it about 5 minutes earlier.
You were already exposed.
Knee deep, yeah.
Literally. So it's okay if you choose. Let's just say someone comes in here and says, I choose not to eat pork. And they do that themselves, and that's something they determine that they want to do. That's between them and God that they want to do. Have y'all got a problem with that? No, that's cool. Man, you can not eat pork all you want to. That's more for me. But if they come in and try to say, hey, sister, you know you can't go to heaven eating pork, and that's binding it on someone and making it a matter of salvation. And we can't do that. Do we do that at all today? We could, man, depending on where this goes in the next 30 seconds, that'll be the end of the class. And we'll chase this the rest of the class. And that's okay. Is there anything we bind on people today that's not really part of the gospel, but we treat it like it is, such that, hey man, you know, if you do this, you know you're going to hell. Or you know you're sinning. Is there anything like that? I got a couple. I wouldn't have brought it up if I didn't have a couple. But I wanted to see what y'all thought. Is there anything that you can think of that we preach against that you're like, I don't know about that?
I don't like wearing suits, and you know, people say,
We'll ramp up. There you go. If you're not wearing, I'm helping. Normally, I don't like wearing a coat. There's a coat right over there. If I don't like wearing a coat, yet I got a coat with me today, what does that say?
Are we going to get up and do something?
You're going to get up and do something. Otherwise, you're going to have no coat.
Yep.
So, yes. Be Emmett. Remember Emmett? You be back here again? Here. Yeah, there's that coat at. What's going on? You know? You need to fix that.
Where's that dress at? Where's the tie?
Yeah, no, they'll tie the older school. You know, I failed. I failed at that point this morning. I figured I could slide by with no
He's
tie.
talking about a dress code. He's not talking about the gospel.
No, that's right. But people, look, people may expect
We
you.
did it out of respect. More
Yes, that's right. But that's not found on
people have
something.
different reasons for wanting that.
That's right.
You know.
I think though, here in Maysville, and I haven't attended very many churches in Christ State Church, been to this one 10, 12, 13 years.
Yeah, been here long enough to
But
make an assessment. That's for sure.
And I've made some pretty bold statements, just trying to get feedback on stuff. Now, I know you're surprised about that, but I have.
a shock.
But we have open discussions about things, and when someone brings up something like that or they talk about it, we usually do a pretty good job of bringing it to resolution.
Yeah.
Even if, you know, we're trying to get down to the nitty gritty of
Yeah.
what it is and stuff. So
Yeah.
I know in this class we have another class and stuff, but I think that's one of our strengths here, that people feel free enough to ask questions, no matter how bold they are, or make a statement, and people address those statements, and we talk about them. And I think that openness and willing to discuss and not get mad and or get freaked out, I think that's one of our strengths. I really do.
Matt can tell, it's good to have open discussion. Matt can tell you that when we used to go to camp, he still remembers that on Thursday night, Lonnie would have us all meet in Scott's Hall, and we would just discuss things. Now, and they knew it was never going to go further than that.
Right.
We had several folks, you know, that broke down in things, but that's where it stayed, right in that room right there.
That's good. That's good. You ought to be able to talk about, given the appropriateness of the age and you know what I mean, things like that, that people understand what it is that they're talking about. You ought to be able to talk about it in there.
But if you serve the Lord's table, you're wanted to have a suit on that looks presentable and looks nice.
That's right.
Which has nothing to do about salvation.
That's right.
But to be good, back to the church, wear a suit if we're going to wear the
Traditions. So there are traditions, and Paul covers traditions and says that's okay.
That's okay.
That's okay to have traditions.
And it's worst pet peeves.
Yeah.
Because people didn't wear suits up there with them waiting on the table.
Yeah.
He would have a meeting about that every so often.
We had a meeting here not
talking
long
about
ago.
Well, remember how many people? Who was the deacon over the order of worship before?
Joe Newman.
Joe Newman, man, we'd meet back here.
Yeah.
We'd meet back here, and you know, and that was we. I don't mean to say anything bad about this, but we took it more serious because you were sitting in there, you know. Emmett come in, sat down there at the desk. All right, what we got? You know what I mean? It was like a meeting.
Yeah.
Because it was a meeting. Now, who's doing what? I got one for you. How about this? Drinking alcohol. If you drink any alcohol as a Christian, are you going to hell?
No.
Who said no? Robin?
I said no.
I agree with you. There may be some yeses in the room,
But
and we'll
don't-
give time for that to percolate.
But
But-
don't go out there and being drunk in front of people that you're trying to convert.
That's right, that's right. We could go to many different people who say that they drank wine back then, but it didn't have any alcohol content.
No, it did.
That's just absolutely wrong.
That was stronger than.
No, because Paul says in Corinthians that they were misusing the Lord's Supper because they were coming there to eat, and he said, and some of you were getting drunk. Well, they must have been drinking 50 gallons of that stuff then. Good, no matter what.
Lord's Supper that day.
Yeah, they were getting drunk. Period. Doesn't matter if they took a shot glass or they drank a whole barrel of it to get drunk. The end result is they were getting drunk. He said, don't be doing that. Paul told Timothy, which he must have been having trouble with goat's milk or bad water or something, because what did he suggest to Timothy that he do?
Take a little wine.
Take a little wine for your often infirmities. A little wine. Deacons and elders are not to be given to any wine or how much wine? Much wine. So if I said, Cecil, you're not to be given to much wine, what does that mean? Does that mean you can't drink no wine?
No,
It just means what?
it means I don't.
Don't overdo it.
I can drink it, I take a drink, just don't let the drink take me.
That's right. Don't be dumb. Don't be dumb.
And don't tell someone they can't drink.
That's
they're
right.
gonna be drinking.
That's right. And so
But in a lot of sins,
begin.
a lot of sin, no, I'm not talking about
Oh,
alcohol.
sorry.
What I'm saying though is a lot of sins begin because we take something to excess.
A liberty. That's right.
I mean,
Paul even talks about that. He says, "Don't let your freedom, don't let your liberties, you don't abuse that." Just because all of the taste not, touch not, all that stuff, eat not, under the law, is gone. Don't go crazy, because he said, if I find out that eating meat offends my weaker brother, what does weaker mean? Uninformed. Uninformed. He says, what? Out of love, I'm never going to eat meat again. Now, if I knew that, I guess we have an example. I would try to go make my weaker brother no longer weaker. I would try to educate him. Hey, man, steaks are good. Steaks are good. Yes. Here, eat one with me. You'll find out. And then we can both eat steaks.
You know, it's the same thing on alcohol. You're talking about drinking it, if you're drinking it in the privacy of your home. It's a little different than drinking it out at the
It is.
local pub
It
or
is,
restaurant
it
or
is.
something. And two,
It creates confusion.
yeah, and two, if you're out having dinner and got a bottle of wine there, it could affect other people.
Yes.
And say, well, look there, he's a member of the church there, and he's
Oh, yeah,
just an
Bubba. I seen
alcoholic.
Bubba over there, just tipping it up, man. What the heck? Is he a Christian or not? People might ask that.
And two, how much is okay?
Well-
so there is a, and, I try to look at it, which I'm not saying I'm perfect or nothing, but I try to look at it, would I do it if Jesus was sitting with me,
Yeah.
so.
Did y'all think Jesus drank wine? Yes.
Well, Jesus turned a whole bunch of water into wine at a.
Yeah. Yes. We can come up with many direct examples and a bunch of indirect ones that hey man, if he did this, then what?
There's some.
If somebody said go find a verse that said thou shalt not drink, could you find it? No. You wear your Bible out, but it ain't in there in the New Testament. Leviticus says do not drink wine or strong drink out, but that was a specific thing of what he was talking about, somebody being dedicated to the Lord, not just the general public. I'm sorry, Susan.
No, sorry. Some denomination meetings believe you should not even touch it, the food. We had a lady that used to go to the house, a friend of James. Her name was Jane as well. And Jane, he was cooking wine to make a chicken one time.
Yeah.
And she found out it was cooking wine, and even the alcohol boils away at a certain degree,
Yeah.
And she wouldn't eat it. She wouldn't eat the chicken. And I tease her later on. I see her at a ball game, and I say, you want to come over to the house? have some of my drunk chicken.
Have some wine.
She made a good chicken and rice thing, you know, pretty good. Shoot,
I gotta
My,
use that sometime.
my grandpa, who was an absolute card, man. He was Ken Taylor. Ken Taylor could be my grandpa in terms of personality and all that. I hate Ken to say that. Age-wise, he couldn't. He's not quite there, you know. And I would be 5 years old. My grandpa was big in the Catholic Church. And they went, communion is what they call it. You know, what we call Lord's Supper, they call communion. And they had real wine. And you go up there and you get your little wafer thing, and then you get a drink of wine, and then you go back and you sit down, flip the benches out, and you sit down and kneel at the benches. My grandpa, who's, leader in this congregation or whatever, parish, I guess is what they call it. He's, all responsibility and all that stuff. But he's got a grandson with him. And man, he was just a clown around me. So he goes up, gets all this stuff, comes around, and he pulls the thing out, and he's sitting there praying. And I don't know what people did. They knelt, and they were praying or looking around, but they were waiting on the Lord's Supper to end so that you would get back in your seat. So I'm like 5 years old. I slipped down there next to my grandpa. Right next to him. My shoulder's like up under his elbow or whatever. And he gets done praying or whatever. He says, "You see him? He's this dude at the end of the line. Always at the end of the line," my grandpa said. He said, "Watch him when he gets up there. He'll turn the whole thing up and drink it all." And he said, "He's a boozer." And so I'm sitting there next to my grandpa, and it's getting down and getting down and getting down. And right when the guy gets up there, he puts his hands on my shoulders, and we're like, it's like we're watching a football play or something, And he's like, and the guy gets over there, he kicks it back, and my grandpa went, "Ah!" I get right there around the middle of church, and we're back here, "Ah!" Yes, different religions.
Hey Steve, if you're done with story, I don't want to
No, I'm done.
But there's really three phases to this that I can think of. One, about anything you want to put in that circle.
Yes.
The issue itself, what does Scripture directly say about it? What Bubba had talked about, your influence to other people. And then kind of what Cecil was saying, but didn't really say it this way, is what do you personally believe in your conscience about how the issue will affect you? And your general question, do we have issues about the regard to salvation?
Yeah.
Or do we make them that way?
Yeah.
Well, then you got to kind of figure out, okay, which one of those three are you talking about?
Yeah. Make sure
in
these
general, because it's layered a little bit.
It is. It is. A lot of things come into play.
And now that issue right there, you could have a legit discussion about any one of those three topics up there.
Yes.
It's such a hot topic with people. And I say that really for no other reason to say it's complex.
When you, and that's great that you covered those three. What the Scripture directly says, how you influence other people with your actions, and then number three, what you believe is okay for you. Back to that liberties deal about what Paul said. So you want to make sure that even though you feel good about it, you don't violate what Scripture directly says. So if it didn't have something to say about it, and so it would be permissible, it would be a liberty. And then you would get into number two, how do you influence other people? Well, you could start to, and we could put smoking or dipping or chewing or whatever else. Gambling is a little tougher to sell as a morally neutral point. Not terribly. I wouldn't argue personally with it. The only verse, you're not going to find a verse that says you can't gamble. You're just going to find verses that say how you're supposed to get your money, which is work. That's about it. You're going to be much deeper than that.
Well, about being a steward of your money.
You're being a steward of your money. Let him who steal no longer, but rather let him work so that he may have, so that he may give. Because the goal would be to give. Paul could have said, let him who steal no longer, but go play blackjack so that he can, I'm joking. if someone said, well, I think I'm going to drink. I remember me and Tommy Kilpatrick was out weed eating up here. MacArthur was buzzing around on a lawnmower, and it was hot, man. I mean, like stinking hot. I said, Tommy, I don't drink no more. But if I had an ice cold beer, I would suck the bottom of it out right now. He said, me too. He said, I would too. Was that sinful? No, it wasn't sinful. If we grabbed a bottle and we were tipping it up right after we got done weed eating down here, would that look good? No, it wouldn't look good. Probably get a couple conversations about that. But it's, do we bind something on people or not? You watch yourself, you protect yourself to make sure something doesn't get bound on you as part of this. You understand the tradition of our congregation. You, when you come here, have agreed to place yourself under the leadership and the oversight of our elders. So they're going to set the stage as best they can for, not the gospel. They don't set the stage for the gospel because the Bible does that. But they set the stage for the rest of the things. Here's what we do. Here's how we participate. Here's how we behave as a group of people. And the idea there is if you want to participate with this group, you'll join this. If you don't like that, what do? You do like Paul and wish Barnabas, hey man, I love you. Or not Barnabas, John Mark. You say to him, hey, I love you, man, but we'll see you. I'll see you on the other side. You know, we can part as friends and disagree. You go to heaven, I'll go to heaven, and we'll get there, not different ways because it's the same gospel. We'll get there with having different opinions about morally neutral things. Paul is trying to tell, in verse 16, he says, nevertheless, knowing that a man is not justified by works of the law, you're not justified by things that are not of the gospel. You're not justified by you can get into the hear, believe, repent, and things like that. That's how you're justified by the gospel, not things separate from that. But through faith in Christ, even we have believed in Christ so that we may be justified by faith in Christ and not by the works of the law, since by the works of the law no flesh will be justified. Verse 18, for if I rebuild what I have once destroyed. What's Paul talking about? What's he talking about rebuilding? The law. If I let y'all mix circumcision back into the gospel, I am rebuilding the law. And Paul says, I helped destroy that. He says, I can't rebuild the law. Don't do that. Don't bring something that's not the gospel into the gospel. And we'll get one verse in before the bell rings. I'll be back before you again, I think, in a couple of weeks. Chapter 3, verse 1. You foolish Galatians, who has bewitched you? Who came in here and told you something wrong? When you get into what foolish means, anateos. I'm not Tim, I'm not an expert, but I can pronounce it as best I can. Anateos. Wanting to believe something based on unwise or sensual feelings. That's not sensual, but these guys sensual because this is their past. They want to believe this. Somebody came in, they were foolish, it says. They were weak and not weak, they were susceptible is the word I'm looking for. They were susceptible to come in. And then it says, who has bewitched you? Baskaino, to malign or fascinate by false representations. That's the Greek word for bewitch. To malign or fascinate by false representations. So someone is fascinating these people with false things that we know seems right, but it's easy to believe. They
accept it because it's what
they accept it because it's easy to accept. It makes sense. So, Lord willing, we'll begin there our next time, and we'll have Anthony leave the machine off next time and cover cover what we didn't cover.